morning, Morgan. It's Monday. Story time. It's last Saturday, and you have the bright idea that we're going to go to this food pantry that you've uh, found out exists. So I say cool, because we're both magically awake at the proper time. So we go to this food pantry at the back of like a shopping center, it looks kind of shady, and we go inside and it smells awful. It smells horrible. We're waiting in a line outside. It feels like, at least 10 minutes, and then we go in another line, and that feels like another 5 to 10 minutes. And then we're shuffled into a room, and we're like, what's going on in this room? And then we can hear a microphone going off and somebody telling a story, and we realize that there's a sermon going on in the other room by somebody of this church, and okay, and we sit there for at least 20 more minutes, and then it's finally our turn to get shuffled out of the room and put into another room, and in this other room we're given a sermon, and in this sermon the lady talking to us is telling us all about how Jesus is the provider. And the way that this food pantry did things, you could also get not just food, but clothing and household items. And she told this very moving story about how there was this man who was looking for a lamp, and there was no lamp in the household items. But then she said, well, let's pray that, you're able to find your lamp in the time that you need. It'll be just what you need. Jesus is the provider, and they say this prayer. And then a couple minutes later, this man says, oh, I found my lamp. And she said, where? And it's in the extra items pile. And so he was able to get another household item, because there's a limit to how many household items you can get, and his precious lamp, and how this was showing us that Jesus is the provider. Then we proceeded to get shuffled out of that room, getting stickers on our shoulders, while being told that God blesses us. And then it became a madhouse. There was no order whatsoever for all of the items, and everything was haphazard and like a tornado. And basically you and I got out of there as soon as possible. And what we learned from that was it was not worth the amount of time that we put into that experience, which was 2 hours of my life, for the amount of value we got out of it. I remember telling you I would rather work 2 more hours at work to be able to pay for all of this stuff than to sit here for 2 hours in these horrible conditions with this haphazard environment, getting God mansplained to me. The items that we acquired were not that high quality. We got out of there and it wasn't really worth our time. But it felt like I was being tricked into a sermon, where it wasn't part of the advertising that was something that we had to go through before we could get the items of the food pantry that we needed. And I love Jesus, I'm a Christian, but that really rubs me the wrong way. And this brings me to my actual point that I want to make, which is that food pantries can't replace SNAP. When SNAP was suspended in October, November, it affected us a lot, because that's one of the main ways that we pay for our food in our household. And I remember hearing a lot of talk during that time that people believed that this was an opportunity for churches and for food pantries to really step up, and that some people were even saying that maybe those should be the main ways that people who are poor or have less income or are just in unfortunate circumstances should be provided for instead of SNAP benefits. But that's really not the case, because it was so much less efficient and deprecating for you and I to sit through that. From this small experience in food pantry, I really can't see how the two things are even close to each other at all, besides the factor of it being food that is delivered to the person in need, there's not a lot of organizational coherency that is the same. Where a food pantry, you have to go to a location. All food pantry hours are during odd hours that, for somebody who works full time, I wouldn't be able to go to. SNAP benefits come in a little card, and you pay for your food just like you would with a credit card. Food pantries are often run by churches, which can sometimes not have any religious stipulations over whether or not you can come and partake of food, but sometimes they try to trick you into a sermon. And that's very deprecating. I felt like I had less value and that I was poor when I was surrounded by these squalor environments and this preaching that really didn't feel uplifting. And when I'm using SNAP benefits to buy things from Walmart, I don't feel that way. I feel like I'm just buying groceries just like any other normal person, which is what's happening. It's interesting how so many people who don't interact with SNAP benefits or food pantries directly have so many opinions about what the correct or right way to do things is. But as somebody who has interacted with both in her intimate personal life, I'll tell you one thing, and that's I'd prefer SNAP benefits any other day. And when I hopefully no longer have to rely on SNAP benefits to feed my own self, I hope that my money through my taxes can help somebody else through their SNAP benefits. In every policy there is nuance, and with every nuance there is the actual lived experiences. And I hope that during this new year, whenever some politics conversation comes up with policy, that you're able to find the people that are impacted by it personally and listen to their experiences. Don't come to your own conclusion first. First, learn what people who are actually experiencing it on the front lines are experiencing. Then, the real truth of the matter might be more exposed. And, to quote John Green, nothing is simpler than despair. But I don't think any simple story tells the whole story. So all hail complexities. Morgan, I'll see you on Tuesday.